we hold these truths to be self-evident. Sounds corny. Not a joke. Think about it. We hold these truths to be self-evident. All men and women created by you know the thing. You know how we talk about it. Are we the people?
Or something like that. Maybe it's approximately we the people and the other thing about the thing. He's the president of the United States. Kind of amazing. His pal, the exalted Cyclops of the Democrat Party and the White Knights of the KKK, Robert Byrd. Why don't the Republicans play video of his eulogy of Robert Byrd as a mentor? Remember, he said he was a mentor. Yes, sir. The funeral of KKK, not only was Senator Robert Byrd the exalted Cyclops and chief recruiter of the KKK in West Virginia, he founded the KKK in West Virginia. Didn't exist before Democrat Senator Robert Byrd came along. Joe Biden considered him to be a mentor, and pretty remarkable stuff. It's funny, I looked at some of this over the weekend because Joe Biden's speech, his commencement address at Howard University in Washington, D.C., and I was like, isn't this the guy who said he didn't want his kids going to school in a racial jungle and said that the exalted Cyclops of the KKK was his mentor? And what an NBC News that did a story years ago now about Joe Biden's segregationist past. And boy, when you're a Democrat, all of that just washes away. The news media cleanses you of all of this. It is good to be a Democrat, isn't it? Yes, it is. Segregationist Joe Biden. Why would that be a problem? That's not a thing. He's a Democrat, just the party of the Klan and the Confederacy and Jefferson Davis and Yes, sir. NBC News in 2019, and the headline is Biden doubles down. This is NBC fake news, Democrat Party owned and operated, part of the merger of state and corporate power. Biden doubles down on segregationist comments, says critics like Cory Booker should apologize to him. Because when you're a Democrat, it's a different ball of wax altogether, isn't it? Well, happy Monday to you and welcome back. We are at 888-630-9625, 888-630-9625. And boy, his segregationist past, and it just washes away, and the news media never brings it up. It doesn't matter what he says. It never comes up again. NBC News again, Joe Biden refuses to apologize for segregationist comments. And that's okay because it's the Democrat Party. It's the history of the Democrat Party. Let's start with I've been talking about the 1861 Project for a long time now. It begins when the Democrat Party fired on Fort Sumter, starting the United States Civil War. And then, of course, the president of the Confederate States of America, Jefferson Davis. Why do you think they're stripping the name Jefferson Davis off of everything they can that they name for him? Because they're erasing their own history. That's why. That's taking down all the portraits and tearing down the statues. They're all segregationist Democrats. And then they pretend that they've successfully erased their history. Like the Taliban. Extraordinary. Yes, it is. Just great. Yeah, and fact check. Robert Byrd, eulogized by Joe Biden at funeral. And I love this fact check. Was not KKK Grand Wizard. That's the headline from the Reuters news agency. Fact check. Pretty funny stuff. It made me laugh. 2020, October 7th. While Joe Biden, we're on the lead up to Election Day. Remember, they were lying to us about the Hunter Biden letter and their corporate collusion between the FBI and Twitter and Facebook, trampling the New York Post stories, which were all true, and the emails and the laptop. And then the Reuters news agency with their fake check, Robert Byrd eulogized by Joe Biden at funeral, was not KKK Grand Wizard. No, he was the exalted Cyclops. But they found somebody nobody's ever heard of on Facebook that said that he was the Grand Wizard. But in the Grand Wizard scheme of things, what does it really matter, honestly? So the Reuters news agency said, no, he wasn't the Grand Wizard. No, he was the Exalted Cyclops. And he was the Kleagle, which means he was the head recruiter. And he was the founder. And Joe Biden said all kinds of great things about him. Said he was a mentor and how much he loved the Exalted Cyclops of the KKK. Why would that be a problem? That's just fine. He's Joe Biden. And you look at the fact check by Reuters, doesn't mention that when he was eulogizing him, he called him a mentor. They just leave that out because the most insidious power the media has is the power to ignore. Not a thing. The Associated Press did the same fake fact check. Biden did not eulogize former KKK Grand Wizard, in quotation marks, the Associated Press. It's the same thing all over again. Just amazing. When I was with CNN, I did interview Robert Byrd. He was not only the Exalted Cyclops, but he was the historian of the United States Senate. And on the anniversary of the old Senate chamber, I interviewed Robert Byrd at great length, actually, in the old Senate chamber, which is inside the main Capitol building, before the wings were built with the new Senate chamber and the new House chamber. Biden did eulogize Byrd at his funeral and called him a mentor and a friend, his mentor, and that's okay. Now, let's go. I just wanted to give, after Joe Biden's commencement address at the Howard University on Saturday, I just wanted to give about a 3-minute rebuttal. You got the State of the Union and then the Republican rebuttal. I just wanted to give a brief rebuttal. I want to play some of the audio from Saturday, Howard University, which has, it's an HBCU, historically black college or university. And Joe Biden called it a black HBCU just to make sure, because you got to say it twice. Pretty amazing stuff. And here's Joe Biden Saturday at the Howard University, Kamala Harris's alma mater in Washington, D.C.
We know that American history has not always been a fairy tale.
It's not always been Democrats.
It's been a constant push and pull.
From the start.
For more than 240 years. Between the best of us, the American ideal that we're all created equal, and the worst of us, a harsh reality that racism has long torn us apart. It's a battle that's never really over. But on the best days, enough of us have the guts and the hearts to stand up for the best in us. To choose love over hate, unity over disunion, progress over retreat. To stand up against the poison of white supremacy, as I did my inaugural address, to single out.
Now, the audio at the Howard University event was sketchy and went back and forth, and it was mono, then stereo, and then it skipped, and then it became hollow, and it's impossible to say what the source of the bad audio was. The White House, Howard University, the press, but there it was. And white supremacy, and it's first, let's trash the United States of America and trash the history of the United States of America. That's Joe Biden. And then, of course, white supremacy, because white supremacy is everywhere. Pay no attention to what's really going on in the country. More than 9,900 African Americans were murdered last year in the United States of America. The overwhelming majority by African American perpetrators. And white supremacy, I think there was that racist in New York that attacked black people at a grocery store. There was the racist black guy in Waukesha, Wisconsin, that drove his car through the Christmas parade and murdered 6, injured 61. There was the black militant racist that committed a suicide attack against the U.S. Capitol about 3 months after January 6th. I think it was April 2nd when a black militant attacked the Capitol in a suicide attack, murdered Officer William Evans, severely wounded a second U.S. Capitol police officer. Pay no attention to any of that. Just amazing stuff, I got to say. And Joe Biden, the white supremacy. Now, I want you to listen to this white supremacy soundbite that Joe Biden used at an HBCU, at a black college in Washington, D.C., Howard University, very famous. And Joe Biden, and then listen to the audience applaud dutifully. Yeah, white supremacy in 2023 is the biggest problem we're going to face. Ignore the 9,900 murders and all that other good stuff. Joe Biden.
The most dangerous terrorist threat to our homeland is white supremacy.
Yay, the most dangerous. It's like they clap when Hillary says the election was stolen. Democrats do. Hey, and then we got the squeal.
I'm not saying this because I'm at a black HBCU.
Black HBCU.
I say
They
it wherever
laugh.
I go.
He says it wherever he goes. Wherever he goes, he says the biggest problem we face is the terrorist threat of white supremacy, because that is the message that the President of the United States, a Democrat, a segregationist Democrat, who praised the exalted cyclops of the KKK because he was a leader of the Democrat Party in the Senate while Joe Biden was in the Senate. Make no mistake. The Democrat Party, Nathan Bedford Forrest, inflicted the KKK on the United States of America. Every single Jim Crow law was a Democrat law. Everyone that stood in a schoolhouse door everywhere in the country was a Democrat, from Orville Faubus, the Democrat governor of Arkansas, at Central High in Little Rock, Arkansas in 1957, when a Republican president, Dwight Eisenhower, sent the 101st Airborne down to move him out of the way, to George Wallace at the University of Alabama, standing in the schoolhouse door there, the Democrat governor, who then ran repeatedly for president as the Democrat, and by the way, James Earl Ray, who shot Martin Luther King in the head and killed him, was a Democrat Party volunteer for Governor Wallace's presidential campaign up until just weeks before he shot and killed Martin Luther King. But pay no attention to any of this, because white supremacy and the terrorist threat of white supremacy, that's the big threat. And the people clap. And then when he said that, he doesn't just say that because he's at a black HBCU. Again, the B in HBCU stands for black, so the black, historically black college and university. Not a bright man. His brain is broke.
And I'm not saying this because I'm at a black HBCU.
They all laugh.
I say it wherever I go.
I say it wherever I go. You do? He's headed to Asia this week, isn't he? He's going to Asia. He's going to Hiroshima. He's going to Hiroshima, but probably to apologize. We apologize for winning World War II. You guys really should have won and brutalized and enslaved the entire world because, you guys. Did you see the woman tweeting over the weekend on an airplane? She got on an airplane, and somebody had, you can take your dogs on airplanes now. Somebody had a corgi, a little corgi like Queen Elizabeth would walk around with. Isn't that what she walked around with? I think so. Corgis. And the woman got on, she's black. It's important to the story. And she claimed that she was terrified by the corgi being on the plane because she said she has some sort of a genetic memory of white people in America terrorizing her ancestors using dogs like corgis. So she had to be relocated to another location on the airplane because, corgis terrify her. This is what the Democrats have done to everyone and everything. And then they erase the fact that they are the lynch mob. Hillary being Hillary. Yeah, she's terrified that the corgi was going to conjure up genetic memories that she didn't experience of somebody else's dog terrorizing somebody else in centuries gone by or something like that, because you're a Democrat Party. Man, oh man. I love to tell the truth, and I love to offer solutions. Well, if you have high blood pressure, maybe you know somebody who does have high blood pressure, I want to tell you about some friends of mine at 120 Life. 120 Life. They're a Chicago-based company that developed a juice drink that can help lower your blood pressure naturally. 120 Life, natural juice drink made of pomegranates, tart cherries, cranberries, hibiscus, beetroot, magnesium, come together to make a delicious drink, and each one of those elements help you with your blood pressure. Can help lower your blood pressure without the side effects. I'm drinking it, and I love it. I know that you will, too. Helps keep me energized, and it helps keep my blood pressure in check, which is real good. The truth is there are easy, natural ways to keep your blood pressure in check. One of them is 120 Life. 120 Life. It's great stuff. Check it out. And tell them Chris Plant sent you. Visit 120life.com. That's 120life.com on Al Gore's amazing internet. You can order a 2-week trial pack of their juice drink. There's a money-back guarantee, and you can use the code CHRIS to save 15%. Thank me later. The natural approach to blood pressure management. Visit 120life.com today and start seeing the benefits in just 2 weeks. These statements and products have not been evaluated by the Food and Drug Administration. Products not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, prevent any disease or condition. Yeah, Joe Biden. And then he says it's a black HBCU, and they all laugh at him. Somehow the news media missed all of this. Pretty amazing time to be an American. We're at 888-630-9625.
But I tell you, if you have a problem figuring out whether you're for me or Trump, then you ain't black.
Hey, Chris here with some exciting news. Now you can listen to me live on the WMAL app. Doesn't matter if you're in your car, in the office, on the go. The WMAL app delivers crystal clear around-the-clock news coverage anywhere with cell service or Wi-Fi. So don't miss a second of your favorite shows. Download the WMAL app today on the Apple App Store or at Google Play Store. I've got an update on monkeypox today as well. Just don't say it's a gay disease until the news media says it's a gay disease, and then the next day they'll say it's not a gay disease, then they'll say it's going away, and then they'll say it's coming back. It's kind of like the surge at the border. It's a surge, it's not a surge. She's my sister, she's my daughter, she's my sister, she's my daughter. It's pretty amazing stuff. I've got stories about running into listeners over the weekend, too. A couple of great stories about running into listeners over the weekend. Right now, let's go to the telephones. Well, you know what? I've kind of run out the clock. I don't want to take anybody for such a short period of time. I went to my favorite diner, Metro 29 Diner. It used to be on the Lee Highway. Then the Democrats said, well, we want to erase our history. So now it's the Langston Highway by Glebe Road, Metro 29 Diner. And it was great. I went and I sat down. Normally they have Fox News on the TV in the Metro 29 Diner. They had Newsmax on when I went there on Saturday morning with my best girl. Ran into a listener there, Patrick. And I was by myself. My best girl was out of town for her nephew's graduation, and I couldn't go to the graduation because, working on Newsmax. And the new show just started last week on Newsmax, so I couldn't go. But ran into a great listener there, talked about all kinds of fun stuff. Yeah, this tweet over the weekend is pretty funny. What's her name? Coretha Mitchell. And her Twitter is Prof. Corey. So she's allegedly a professor. She's a professor. She's African-American. And she tweeted out a picture of a guy across the aisle from her in an airplane in the coach seats. And the guy is sitting there. He's a white guy. It matters because she's a racist. And he's got a beard, and he's wearing a T-shirt, and he has tattoos on his arms, and he's got, I think it's a corgi, a little corgi dog in his lap. And she tweeted out a picture of the guy sitting there minding his own business with a little tiny dog on his lap. And Coretha Mitchell, Professor Corey, tweeted, "Ugh, UGH, 3 exclamation marks. Just my MF luck. Just my MF luck. Keep it classy there, Professor." And she wrote, I got up and told the flight attendant I will need to be away from the dog, so I'll wait until everyone boards to see where I can move. That worked because my response is always so visceral. I know the terror of the Americans using dogs against my ancestors lives in my flesh. Can feel the dogma thriving within her. What was the line that the dogma? So I know the terror of the Americans using dogs against my ancestors lives in my flesh. Maybe she's talking about Sheriff Bull Connor, who was a statewide leader of the Democratic Party, who used the dogs in the fire hoses during the civil rights marches and things. I could be talking about, and I'll bet $1 right here that she's a hardcore Democrat, and she doesn't know she's a professor. She doesn't know that the Democrat Party is the party of everything that leaves her living in terror all these centuries later. Just amazing. Yeah, so that's Professor. She's Professor Corey Mitchell. I didn't look her up to see where she's a professor. But
the dogma lives loudly within you.
That's right, the dogma. That's Dianne Feinstein, who continues to be attacked. Now they're releasing stuff on her stock trades over the years, and how wealthy she has become. And they're out, the Democrats are out to get her, and they don't care. They'll destroy the world for another ham sandwich, because that's just who they are. Amazing stuff. These people. Can you say these people? I think you can. And then I do want to, let's go to another phone call, but I want to tell you about a couple of listeners that I ran into over the weekend. I think kind of fun stories. Let's go to Eric calling from Tennessee. Eric, you're on the Chris Plant Show.
Hey, Chris. Look, I want to thank you for supporting the police and our military and all the patriots out here. I've been a law enforcement officer for 30-plus years, and I just gave it up this past January. Couldn't do it anymore. And before I get into that, I just want to tell you, you're the only show that I get comic relief from all the insanity that we hear every single day. It's quite pleasant. I enjoy your show a lot. But look, I left the Memphis Police Department in 2016, and I worked a couple of agencies. But I'm going to tell you why I left Memphis. And I know you talked about Memphis a couple of weeks ago on your show, what a cesspool that it is, and it certainly is. I still have family living in that city that can't get out. But anyway, I left on September 9th of 2016, and in the summer preceding that, June 4th, we had an officer killed downtown. His name was Vernell Smith, and he was run over by an active shooter that he started in downtown Memphis, and he shot several people. He carjacked a car from the Bass Pro, and while he was fleeing police, he was going the wrong way, probably over 100 miles an hour down a one-way street. And Officer Smith was trying to get pedestrians out of the way because he knew this car was coming. And Officer Smith was not able to get out of the way himself, and he got run over, Chris. And I was one of those officers that was there standing over him as I watched citizens give him CPR, and they were doing a fine job, so we let them continue until the ambulance got there. But so that happened, and then the very next month, you're aware of what happened in Dallas. The 5 police officers got killed there. Well, 3 days later, we had a Black Lives Matter rally in Memphis that shut down the entire downtown. And I was there for several hours, but I want to tell you, we did not have things in control because there were so few of us in the beginning. When the riot police showed up and matted buses, and we finally got control of the streets, not one single person, to my knowledge, went to jail. And I don't blame that on the director of police. I blame it on the mayor, who I'm sure gave the order not to arrest anybody. And after that, Chris, I said, I can't do this anymore. If we're not going to enforce the law, it's just going to be complete chaos. And 2 months later, I was gone. I was out. And I worked a couple more smaller police departments that were more conservative around the area. But come January of this year, I was gone. I just couldn't do it.
Because the Democrat Party has so undermined trust and confidence in the police across the country based on their fake narrative that, I played audio last week of a young African-American guy, probably 18, 19 years old, posted a video. He had been listening to Candace Owens, and Candace Owens was using, happily, I'm happy to say, one of my talking points that there are more people killed in fatal lightning strikes in the United States of America every year than there are unarmed African Americans killed in police conflicts. And of course, there are more white people killed in while unarmed in conflicts with the police than there are black people killed while unarmed in conflicts with the police. But pay no attention to the facts. The Democrat Party has done everything they can to destroy policing in the United States of America, right? And they've turned the people and done everything they can, and they've been pretty successful to turn the people against the police in the United States. And they have racialized everything and turned everything into a racially polarized incident. And that's what Joe Biden did yesterday, or day before yesterday, rather, at Howard University in Washington, D.C., at the graduation. White supremacy and all of this madness. And we had Alejandro Mayorkas say the same thing over the weekend, that white supremacy is the biggest threat to something. And honestly, there have been more mass murders perpetrated by transgender people in the last year and in the last 2 years than there was that one creep in New York that murdered people. He was a racist in New York, outside of the city of New York. But I got to tell you, when I hear you, Eric, I know that this is the Democratic Party's handiwork, right?
Oh, absolutely. Chris, I want to tell you, police officers aren't afraid to get out here and face the criminal. What they're afraid of is these rogue prosecutors that want to prosecute and persecute us and to hang us, for political benefit. And I'm not going to get into it, but I was actually targeted. That's one of the reasons I quit law enforcement this past January. I was targeted. Fortunately, things went my way because I didn't do anything wrong. But you know as well as I do that just because you don't do anything wrong, that don't mean anything. But I had enough, and I couldn't do it anymore. The Democratic Party, the leftists, have totally destroyed policing. And I'm going to tell everybody listening right now, if you're not already prepared, you need to get prepared, because what's coming, it's really already here if you can't see it. But it's only going to get worse. So people just need to prepare.
Skipping out?
Out of control.
Okay. Sorry, your phone skipped for a moment, but you're back.
I'm sorry. Anyway, I was just saying people need to prepare for the lawlessness, Chris, that's coming. There's a void. There's so many police officers leaving the job now because they just don't want to do the job anymore. And the crime is increasing dramatically just in this area here. I know it's all over the country. But, Chris, I just want to thank you again for letting me talk. And I love your show. And just keep up with the humor, because that's the only thing that can that gets some of us by through the day. I appreciate you.
Well, thank you, Eric. God bless you. I'm saluting you, my friend, and thank you for the 30-plus years in law enforcement. And the left, the Democratic Party isn't. And the left is here, the real left. Now, the defunding the police movement, the hundreds of millions that the Democrats have cut across the country from police budgets, the police staffing that has been slashed in cities across the country, and our corrupt news media, which is the number one threat to democracy, according to the New York Times poll. Number one threat to democracy. The news media, the most insidious power the media has is the power to ignore. And they ignore a lot of this. Boy, do they ignore a lot of this. And again, you get the 10-year-old girl shot yesterday in Washington, D.C., just driving with her family on Mother's Day, caught in the crossfire of Democrats shooting the neighborhood up. The problem is not our guns, it's your sons. And the moral decay, the destruction of the nuclear family, of traditional marriage, which changes everything according to every statistic that you look at. You come from a two-parent household, You graduate from high school. You go to college. You are not involved with the court system. You come from a single-parent household, and all of that is upside down. The Democrats have demolished the nuclear family, and in particular, in the African-American nuclear family, they've really done a number on that. And look at the results of, and then look what they've done to education, the school-to-prison pipeline that the Democrats have built, and so on and so on. And Eric, I know a lot of police officers. I've forever had lots of police officer friends. And it's, again, just say it out loud. The Democrat Party has done this. Michael Brown, hands up, don't shoot. Never happened. Skip Gates up at Boston, Cambridge, Mass, when the neighbors called the police on him because he was breaking into his own house. And the police showed up. Remember the beer summit with Barack Obama at the White House. And the cops are the villains and they're the bad guys. And the reality is everything that the Democrats have done, purportedly in the name of saving African-American lives, led to a spike in the murders of African Americans because you cut back on policing, and the number one recipients of the bad turn going to be African Americans in the United States of America. And the Democrat Party, there is no reckoning, because they love that word reckoning, because of the merger of state and corporate power between the Democrat Party and the corporate media. They don't cover these stories because they believe it might benefit Republicans, the Republican Party, be good for Republicans on Election Day, and on and on. Boy, the Democrat Party, just amazing. And let's go to Jonathan Capehart, because we didn't even get to Jonathan Capehart. I kept going on that front, but Jonathan Capehart of the Washington Post, who's a radical leftist, an extremist, a racist, an LGBTQ activist, and interviewing Mayorkas about Joe Biden. He said, well, white supremacy is the biggest problem in the United States of America.
The president yesterday at his commencement address for the Howard University graduates called white supremacy the major domestic terror threat in this country. Is that correct?
It tragically is. In the terrorism context, domestic violent extremism is our greatest threat right now. Individuals driven to violence because of ideologies of hate, anti-government sentiments, false narratives, personal grievances, and the like. And regrettably, we have seen a rise in white supremacy.
Give me some examples of that, Mr. Secretary. Just give me the most recent incident to which you can refer. Give me a litany, a list. What's the body count? Give me something. Give me anything. But they don't have to do that. They don't have to do that because the media is the most corrupt institution in the United States of America, and that's why the New York Times poll found that 59% of us believe that they're a major threat to democracy itself, and another 25% believe that the mainstream media is a minor threat to democracy itself. That's 84% of us that believe that the news media is a threat to democracy. And then the latest AAP, Associated Press poll, finds that the media increases political divisions. 74% of us believe that the media increases political divisions. That's because somewhere between 74 and 84% of us know exactly what's going on. That's some pretty amazing stuff. And that's what they're spreading. 9,900 African Americans died of murder in the United States last year. More than 9,900 died of murder last year. How many of those were murdered by white supremacists belonging to white supremacist groups as a result of white supremacist violence? Secretary Mayorkas, Joe Biden, how many? Tell me. They go around saying this and they never cite an example. There is that racist in New York at the grocery store. How many? I think he killed 6 people. Yeah. Chicago probably had more than 6 African Americans killed Saturday. 888-630-9625.
The Cambridge police acted stupidly
I looked it up. Over the weekend in Chicago, here's the Chicago Sun-Times 1 hour ago. Chicago weekend gun violence. 7 killed, 20 wounded, including 5 teenagers. And that is not even in the news. That is, now that situation in New York where the 18-year-old psychopath went off the deep end and went to a grocery store and he murdered 10 people, and he should be, he should have the death penalty for things like that. And in Chicago, 1929, they had the St. Valentine's Day Massacre when Al Capone's boys killed 7 of Bugs Moran's boys at a garage on the north side. Seven men, gangsters all, killed. And, it was one of the biggest events of the decade, and it was a very busy decade, the 1920s. They made movies about it and everything. Now an average weekend in Chicago, 7 murdered, 20 wounded, 5 teens among the 20 wounded. And that is a non-story. And Joe Biden's not talking about it, and Jonathan Capehart's not talking about it, and Alejandro Mayorkas is not talking about it. But they sow the seeds of racial division by putting a spotlight and a magnifying glass on a very, relatively speaking, a very small number of tragic incidents, murders being the most tragic among them, while turning a blind eye to, and again, the most insidious power the media has is the power to ignore, and ignoring the overwhelming majority of tragic incidents, that is to say murders across the United States of America, disproportionately and so incredibly disproportionately impacting African Americans. And I've been talking about this since I started doing radio, being a Washington, D.C. resident, and a lot of friends who are police officers now and over the years. And the news media, where's the news media on all this? Where is the Democratic Party on all of this? Silent is where they are. They're nowhere to be found. Listen, I've got a lot to get to, and I want to tell you about 2 moments I had over the weekend where I was out and about. My best girl was out of town. I was flying solo this weekend, and I was out and about, and I ran into a listener on Saturday, and then a separate listener I ran into over the weekend. I want to be a little more general about that one, but I want to share a couple of stories with you about being out on the town in Washington, D.C., and in Virginia with one of them over the weekend. Want to share fun stories about great Americans, listeners, friends of the show, and that means friends of mine when I'm out in the town in Washington, D.C. and surrounding environs. That's coming right up. And more crazy lefties.